Well, if it isn't time to face the music. Today I'm rising to a subscriber challenge. The gauntlet was thrown several weeks ago for me to make European pancakes, or what we would call in the US, probably pronounced incorrectly, crepes. So I'm gonna do my best today to fumble through my probably third time ever making crepes, and I'm gonna let you in on what I learn along the way. I hope you'll stick with me. Hello, welcome back to my kitchen. Thank you so much for spending your time with me today. We are making European pancakes as I was challenged to do so by one of you from across the pond. I can't say that I have any proficiency in making European pancakes, including when it comes to how to pronounce them. In the US, we would likely say crepes, and I think that would probably offend any of you that are French or French speaking. My best guess is that a better pronunciation is crepe, but I would love for you to school me in the comments below and give me grace on my pronunciation as I am not a French speaker. I've made crepes a couple times before, but I wouldn't say that I have any proficiency for them at all. I do know a few things about them though that will start me hopefully on the right foot. First is that it's really important to rest the batter before you cook with it. Second is that it's very important to have the appropriate tools. So I have an 8-inch non-stick skillet hanging out over on my stove, and a variety of flipping instruments, a couple of silicone spatulas and one wooden one. Perhaps none of these is right, but that's what I'm starting with. And the third thing that I know going in is that the amount of batter that I use for each crepe is really important. These European pancakes should be paper thin, but you want to keep them thick enough that they can hold up to the filling that I'm going to add. The beauty of European pancakes is that they can be both savory or sweet, so we're going to do one of each today. The savory version is prosciutto, tarragon, and compte cheese, and the sweet version is hazelnut spread with some chopped hazelnuts over the top. We'll see if we even get there. Perhaps they'll be such a fail that we won't even get to filling them, but I have faith. I'm using a recipe that is not my own today, which is very infrequent for me, but I will include it in the description box below. The only other thing that you see on my bench is my Vitamix. I've read and heard that it's easiest to make crepes in a blender, so that's what we're gonna use today. This comes together in 3 main steps. We make our batter, we rest our batter, we make and fill our crepes. Doesn't seem to be too complicated, a little bit time consuming because we will rest the batter for 30 to 60 minutes in the fridge, and it will probably take me a while to get a hang of making the actual crepes on the stove. But that is a problem for future me, and for now, we're gonna get started making the batter. This batter is super simple. It calls for some milk and some water, 3 tablespoons of melted butter. This is just solidified a little bit, so I'm going to scrape it into our blender. Some salt and some sugar. And yes, I am using sugar even for the savory crepe. I don't think it will give it too much of a sweetness. It's just a tiny little bit of sugar, so we're gonna leave it in. Flour, it's just regular all-purpose flour. A couple of eggs. And worth noting that these eggs and the cream and the water were all room temperature. And the last ingredient, I'm gonna add a little bit of pepper. So this pepper will go really nicely with the savory crepe, and I think it will also nicely set off the hazelnuts. It's not gonna be enough that it's gonna taste peppery, it'll just be something a little bit more sophisticated in the background. So a couple good grinds of pepper. The only other ingredient in the recipe that I'm using that's copied in the description box below is vanilla, but because I'm making some savory crepes with the same crepe batter, I'm not gonna include the vanilla. You can definitely include vanilla or any other extract that you like if you'd like to make a sweet crepe, but for now, we're just gonna go with a little bit of pepper as the flavor. And I'm just gonna blitz this. So I'm gonna mix it until it's the consistency of cream, so it should be super, super smooth. I can see that there's a little bit of flour stuck on the Vitamix. So I'm just gonna give it a scrape down, make sure everything is really well incorporated, and do one more blend. and I think we're set. Looks like everything's been blended well. I'm not seeing any unblended flour. So I'm just gonna rest this. This now goes in the fridge for 30 to 60 minutes, and we'll get it back out, toss it back on the blender base when we pull it out of the fridge just to reincorporate it in case it's separated at all, and we'll get to cooking. In the meantime, I'm gonna give you a quick overview of our filling ingredients. If our crepes get to the point of being able to be filled, I am going to make a savory version and a sweet version. The sweet version is, I think, pretty traditional. This is a hazelnut spread similar to Nutella. My store didn't have Nutella. So we're using a hazelnut spread and then just some roughly chopped hazelnuts. These are just roasted and salted hazelnuts that I've really roughly chopped to sprinkle over the top. So that's our sweet version. Our savory version is going to be compte cheese, which is absolutely delicious and somewhat decadent cheese. I've grated it with a microplane, and this is only a couple ounces of cheese. I've grated it with a microplane on purpose as I'm hopeful that it will melt a little bit faster and we won't have to keep our crepes in the oven for so long. With that cheese, I'm going to use some prosciutto and a little bit of tarragon. I'm just gonna chop up the tarragon now. So I love tarragon a ton, and since summer is almost over and my plant likely won't make it through the winter, I'm just using it as much as I can. So just gonna put a rough dice on some tarragon. And I'm not gonna cook the tarragon at all. I'm really just gonna sprinkle it on top of the cheese as I layer in the cheese and the ham. So if you've never cooked with prosciutto, it comes in a plastic package. It's delicious as is. You can eat it like this. You can cook it and it gets nice and crispy, or you can do what we're gonna do today, something in the middle, not completely cook it, but warm it through and serve it with some cheese. It does come with these plastic sheets in between each of the layers of ham, and all you have to do is peel the plastic sheet off and then peel the prosciutto. It's a really, really finely, thinly sliced meat made from pork. Delicious, salty, a little bit fatty, really great on a charcuterie plate, and I think will go really well in our crepes. This is just 3 ounces of prosciutto, so there's usually only 6 to 8 slices in here. But give it a try if you've never tried it before. It's really delicious. So those are our toppings for our crepes. Our batter is still chilling in the refrigerator and will be for the next 60 minutes or so. So I will be back to you over at the stove when our batter is ready to cook. 30-ish minutes later, time to make some crepes. I'm just gonna quickly blend this to reincorporate all the ingredients. And now over to the stove. Here we are. Crepe batter has been rested for 30 minutes. I'm gonna try 30 minutes this time to see if it makes much of a difference. I'm sure I'll be making these more than once. 30 minutes rest time. And in front of me, I have a plethora of things. I have 3 different potential spatulas. I have, I think this is an 8-inch non-stick pan. I have an ice cream scoop. This ice cream scoop is exactly 3 tablespoons, and that's the amount of crepe batter that I want to use. So maybe untraditional, but I'm gonna use a scoop to scoop out my batter just to make sure I'm keeping them consistent. I have a silicone brush and some butter. This is to butter the pan between each crepe. I have a couple of plates and my toppings set up over to my right. My oven is preheated to 350. I'm gonna turn this front burner on like a medium heat. My hope is that I won't need to use my oven at all, that I'll instead be able to take advantage of the warmth of the crepes and multitask while I'm cooking crepes to fill them while we're cooking them, instead of stacking all of my crepes, filling them after, and then chucking them back in the oven to bring them back up to temperature to melt the cheese and warm the hazelnut spread. That may be way too ambitious for me, but I'm set up here to do it just in case. So we'll see what I can do. So the first thing I'm gonna do then is get a little bit of butter in the pan, and I'm gonna err on the side of more butter than less. I read that that was an important part of crepe making, to not get them to stick to the pan, or when you take them out to stick to each other. And when the pan is warm-ish, I'm winging it here, I'm gonna add 1 scoop of crepe batter. This is supposed to make about 14 crepes. If it's anything like pancakes, the first one always tends to kind of be a miss. Even though I've made pancakes 100 times, I always have trouble with that first one. I am assuming something similar will happen with these crepes. I'm gonna try it. I'm not sure what the pan should look like or how hot it should be, so I'm just gonna give it a try. So 1 scoop. Now, I've read the important part is to quickly swirl the pan. And you can see that I do not have a perfect crepe. I think I need more batter or to move more quickly. So I think I'm to let it cook for a couple minutes until I'm able to flip it. So 60 to 90 seconds on the first side and a little bit less on the second. Certainly not a perfectly round crepe, so I might rethink my scooping protocol. Okay, so I'm starting to be able to see, it looks a little bit lacy, kind of, or like honeycomby. I can see some lighter spots and some darker spots. Ooh, it's starting to move as one, so maybe that means it's ready to flip. What do you think? We're gonna work through all of the tools here. Okay, not horrible. Not perfect, but not horrible. Okay, I'm gonna ditch the ice cream scoop. I'm gonna bring the 1/4 cup measurement into the game. A 1/4 cup is 4 tablespoons, so if I go just shy on this, that should give me about a 3 tablespoon crepe. Okay, I don't think I want it to really brown. The first side does not feel done. Okay, that actually looks nice, I think. The first side was not done enough, so the next one I'll cook a little bit longer on the first side. Okay, I'm gonna pull this one, move the pan off the heat, and then see what we can learn from this one. It's very hot. Is it done all the way through? Tasty. I think it's done. I think I need to go longer on that first side. I think I need to not talk while I'm pouring the next one and just swirl right away. Okay, that wasn't a horrible first attempt. I'm gonna go back in with the butter. I think my pan is too hot, so I'm gonna bring it down to low. My butter is starting to brown, which I don't think I want. So you can see that this guy got a little bit brown, maybe a little bit thick in the middle. Okay, we've been on for a couple minutes. Yeah, I think my pan was too hot on that one. So I'm gonna prep some paper towel to wipe out my pan after this next crepe. I do believe that my butter got too brown. I think my pan was too hot when I started. I have also switched out from a blender to just a measuring cup. I think I'm just gonna try to pour. It feels like I'm not getting the size of crepe that I want, which I think is because I'm not super proficient at swirling really quickly. But maybe if I pour a little bit more, I can tell better how much I need to fill out the whole bottom of the pan. I'll give it a try. So this is a very sad looking crepe. They taste good though. I feel like it might be done. Not bad. Okay, wipe out our pan and go for try number 3. Got the pan off the heat. Still pretty hot. Okay, we're gonna pour. Ooh. A little bit better. This one might actually be fillable. I think while this one is cooking, I might actually try to fill this one and just see what we can do. This guy. And I'm gonna fold into quarters. We'll see how that goes. Turn my pan down even further. My butter continues to brown, which tells me that my pan is too hot. I also think maybe a little bit of a cooler pan would make the swirl easier. I'm not sure. It's fun to try something new that I have only done a couple of times. It's also fun to do it in front of a lot of people who I'm sure do this much better than I do. I hope to get some advice from you in the comments below. Okay, so I think that's closer to the color I want to go for. Not so dark, but a little bit lighter. I'm much more pleased with this shape though. It's kind of a little bit more round. It's got a little bit of a wonky edge, but I think when I'm folding them into triangles, I think it'll be totally fine. I'm gonna let my pan cool down just a little bit. It feels like it's still a little bit hot. So I'm going on half here. Hopefully it's still warm enough that it can melt. There. Looks nice. Okay, I'm just gonna leave it and hopefully the cheese will melt. Okay, back to crepe central. More butter in the pan. Ooh. There we go. That one looks round. Exciting. I guess my main question that I'll have to do more research on is how do I know when it's done? I don't think I necessarily want them to be as dark as the ones are that I have. It feels kind of dark to me. And I don't think I want it to be super crispy. The reality is, I just don't know. I think this is something that would take some practice. Still pretty blonde. I like this pan temperature better though. I brought the pan temperature down quite a bit. I think I'm gonna flip this one what feels like a little bit early, but I don't think I want them to be that dark. Yeah, that was about right. Looks like I've got a hot spot in my pan. Okay, I wanna keep this one a little bit more blonde, so I'm gonna pull it. I think it's too thick though. I think it looks more like lefse than a crepe. You remember lefse? Okay, I'm gonna do another ham and cheese crepe on this one. So midway through, I have probably about half my crepe batter left, so I don't think I'll get 14 out of this. But midway through, here's what I'm thinking. My pan was too hot on the first few and I wasn't using enough batter. I don't think I need my oven at all. I think I can multitask and stuff them when they're warm. But I do think that I need to kind of either keep my temperature lower or cool my pan down in between so the butter doesn't brown and they don't get too brown on the first side. So I'm gonna keep going with this. I'm gonna use the rest of my batter. I'm gonna do my best to fill them on the go, and I'll let you know how it turns out when I'm finished. Fingers crossed. Well, we made crepes. We did it. I have tasted them and they taste delicious, but I'm gonna taste them again. So from that recipe that was supposed to yield 12 to 14 crepes, I got 8 crepes. I think my first few were underfilled, my middle few were overfilled, my last couple were kind of perfect. Here's what I learned. Using the batter vessel for me was easier than swirling in the pan, but I think because of that, I used more batter than I should have per crepe, so that's probably a rookie mistake. I'm not sure if the resting helped or not, but 30 minutes seemed fine. The texture and taste of the crepes is great. I like the fillings that I used. To get the cheese to fully melt, I had to put the cheese on the crepe while it was still in the pan on the second side. I'm not sure that's a bad strategy or a good one, but that's what I did on the last couple. And I think I still need to do some more research to determine exactly how much time to cook each crepe on each side. I think I did pretty well with the ones that are a little bit more blonde, but I think my pan was too hot with the ones that are a little bit browner. But I'm gonna taste for you. So first, the Nutella crepe. I'm convinced you could put Nutella on like a tire and it would still taste good. Nutella is not that harsh of a critic, but I think this next one will be a little bit harsher. This next one is prosciutto, compte cheese, tarragon. Those are really great flavors together. Well, we did it. We made crepes. I think I kind of rose to the challenge. I'm not sure that I could even consider myself proficient yet at crepe making. I think I need a lot more practice, but that's exactly what today was. Thank you so much for coming along with me while I learn a new skill. Do you make crepes? How do you make crepes? What tips do you have to make crepes? How much does it annoy you the way I pronounce the word crepe? Please let me know in the comments below. I'm open for your feedback, and this is something that I have not done many times, so I'm excited to continue perfecting the craft of making crepes. A special thank you to the subscriber that suggested that I make these. If there are any dishes that you would like to learn how to make or watch me learn how to make, please do leave those in the comments below. I really love interacting with you all and hearing your ideas and feedback in the way that you do things. If you liked this video, please give it a like. If you want to see more from me, please subscribe to my channel, and I look forward to seeing you here next time. Cheers!